Alright guys, Wes here, welcome back to the channel. So as you know, Ghost of Tsushima was widely seen as one of the best PS4 exclusives ever, and for good reason. Developed by Sucker Punch Productions, the team that had previously brought us games like Infamous and Sly Cooper. It had you playing as a samurai warrior trying to defend his home island of Tsushima from Mongol invaders during the late 1200s. It featured a super unique open world design that was incredibly immersive, and it was complemented very well with the gameplay. In a time where open world adventures were already played out, Ghost of Tsushima brought a new style of gameplay that was both challenging and extremely rewarding. Ghost of Tsushima 1 has reportedly sold over 10 million copies and has gotten one re-release already in the form of the PlayStation 5's Director's Cut, but fans have been itching for more, like the PC version that we have still not got. But it seems like we may be closer than we thought to an official sequel to Ghost of Tsushima. So in today's video, we're going to go over everything that we know about Ghost of Tsushima 2, including when it's going to come out, how it's going to expand upon the first game, because from the sound of it, this game is going to be even bigger than the first. So even though Ghost of Tsushima 2 hasn't been officially confirmed yet, we have a ton of evidence suggesting that the game is real. A number of job listings at Sucker Punch have more or less confirmed that they're working on a follow-up to the first game, and even Sony somewhat teased Ghost of Tsushima 2, or at least that's what it looked like, where they put footage of what seemed to be Ghost of Tsushima 2 in a PlayStation promotional video. But as of right now, neither Sucker Punch Productions nor Sony have officially confirmed that the game exists. A number of trusted gaming insiders have claimed that the game is real and it's actually very close to completion, so hopefully we get a reveal trailer in the near future, but we'll talk more about the reveal later in the video. When it comes to how exactly the game is going to follow up on the 2020 original, a number of theories have been floating around that sound pretty logical. As you probably know, the conflict of the first game was based on a real-world Mongolian invasion of Japan that was initiated in the year 1274, but there was actually a second invasion of Japan roughly 7 years later that included attacks on the island of Tsushima as well as the mainland Japan. While the first game focused solely on the invasion of Tsushima, the sequel may end up being much larger in scope if it focuses on the second Mongol invasion, meaning the main character Jin will be fighting alongside Japanese forces in large battles, or perhaps he'll be operating outside of the main conflict but still carrying out his own operations while the battle is going on. A number of job listings and leaks have suggested that Ghost of Tsushima 2 is going to be a much larger game than the original, so it would make a lot of sense for Sucker Punch to follow the history and have the game take place during the second Mongol invasion. Assuming this theory is correct about the sequel's conflict and plot, this could also mean that the open world will include mainland Japan instead of just the island of Tsushima. Now, I'm obviously not saying that the entire mainland Japan will be featured on the open world, but it's possible that there will be multiple sandboxes for us to explore, one being Tsushima and the other being a chunk of mainland Japan, which would presumably be the biggest map. The traversal of the first game was one of the strongest aspects because of how natural it felt to other open world games. Now, it remains to be seen if that same kind of exploration would be able to be captured if the maps were bigger, but Sucker Punch Productions blew me away last time around, so I absolutely trust them with a larger scope in the sequel. Now, whenever it comes to the story of Ghost of Tsushima 2, there is a little confusion over how exactly or where exactly the first game left off, because in case you didn't play the game all the way to the end, there was actually two different endings, and it's not really clear which one is official and which one isn't. Minor spoiler alert for the first game, guys, but following the final boss fight, you have the choice to either kill someone or spare them, but it's widely believed that the former is the canon ending, but Sucker Punch hasn't confirmed anything as of recording this video, and obviously something like that is going to be pretty important going into the sequel. I don't want to spoil too much for those of you that haven't played the game all the way to the end yet, but assuming you did, Jin chooses to kill the, I guess, final boss at the end of the game, which will likely have a pretty heavy impact on him going into the sequel, given the two characters' history together. However, if the canon ending is the one where he lets the final boss live, this could end up having some consequences in the next game and could potentially put Jin in harm's way while the second Mongol invasion is underway. Now, another theory going around right now that may end up becoming true is with Jin having some kind of apprentice. Jin is the last of his family in the first game, and naturally he's going to want to pass down his knowledge to make sure Tsushima's teachings live on once he's gone. I have no idea who exactly this princess could be, but it's a very natural place for the story to go, and it would add a lot of interesting dynamics to the story. After seeing Jin flying solo for basically the entire game last time around, it would be really interesting to see how he interacts with a student. Would that cause him to change or become more fatherly to the young warrior, similar to an Atreus and Kratos situation? Would he remain cold and closed off, basically just taking on the student because he knows that it's something that he has to do in order for his knowledge to live on? And furthermore, how would that relationship between them be tested by the massive conflict going on in Japan? In some ways, I think it would be really awesome for Jin Sakai to have an apprentice, because again, he wants to keep his legacy going for whenever he's gone, but then again, it might not be the best fit. Now, shifting gears to a bit more of the technical side of things, it's believed that Ghost of Tsushima 2 has been in development development for over 3 years at this point, despite it still not being formally announced. According to some insiders, work on the sequel relatively started soon after the original game launched in July of 2020. Sucker Punch did have to shift gears at some point to work on the PS5's director's cut, but that version launched in August of 2021, so even if the team waited until that to go full speed ahead on the game's sequel, that means Ghost 2 has been in the oven for well over 2 years, which could explain why reports have been so strange about where the game is. There's been multiple insiders that have said that this game should be announced anytime soon, so I guess the ball is in Sony's court to get this game announced. Again, Sony kind of spilled the beans with this game when they seemingly put a piece of footage in the promotional video for PlayStation a while back, but the secrecy is certainly interesting. It's been a long time since a major AAA exclusive like this game was in the works for this long without formally announcing it existing. Could this mean that Sony is setting up for a shadow drop? I doubt that's the case, or maybe they're just trying to adopt a shorter marketing campaign for their future games. Sony, along with many other AAA games, have been criticized for announcing games way too early before the release date, and they likely want to avoid that potential controversy with future games, so they probably aren't going to want to reveal Ghost of Tsushima 2 until they're at least a year away from being launched. But that being said, the fact that this game has already been in development for multiple years could mean that the reveal is closer than we think. A number of insiders have suggested that Sony is ready to show the game off. Like I said, they could do it at the drop of a hat, meaning I'm expecting to see a trailer at one of the PlayStation showcases next year. Sony likes to hold at least one state of play per quarter, and they're likely going to be holding one in February or March of 2024, but that won't be a state of play. It'll rather be a PlayStation showcase to set the stage for the remainder of the year. I am personally expecting to see a Ghost of Tsushima 2 teaser during that event, and then possibly get a release date for late 2024. Now, speaking of the release date of Ghost of Tsushima 2, it is likely going to be somewhere around the launch of the film adaptation, which is rumored to be hitting theaters in late 2024. Back in June, it was stated by the film's director that the movie was in heavy development, but then Hollywood decided to go on strike, so it's unclear whether or not the movie is still in heavy development or if they were able to get a bunch done in June. But now that entire show is already over, and given how quickly movies tend to go through production once they hit that point, I think it's fair to assume that the movie will be out by the end of 2024. So does that mean that 2024 will be the year of Ghost of Tsushima with a movie and a new game? If the movie ends up being a big summer or fall blockbuster next year, that could make the late 2024 a prime release window for the sequel. Now, another thing to consider is the long-awaited PC port of the first game, which is rumored to be in development. Yes, we've gone almost 3 years and we have still not gotten Ghost of Tsushima, which is honestly kind of crazy to me. Like, does Sony realize as soon as they get that game on PC, the amount of new sales for the director's cut if they end up putting that on PC would be out of this world? Like, there are so many people that are ready and willing to spend $70 on this game, it's crazy. And not to mention the modding potential. Ghost of Tsushima is a beautiful game, and PC modders could be doing insane stuff, but the only thing stopping them is Sony releasing this game on PC. Sony has been going all in with movie adaptations and PC ports, and I actually have a theory as to why we've been waiting this long. Personally, I'm expecting a PC port to hit Steam as well as the Epic Games Store in the months leading up to the film's release, and then Ghost of Tsushima 2 will launch after the film debuts. So if the movie is targeting a summer or fall release of 2024, which I think is reasonable given the updates the director has given, that would mean the PC port of Ghost 1 will launch in the first half of 2024, and then Ghost of Tsushima 2 will launch during the last few months, maybe in October or November, possibly getting pushed to 2025 in January or February. Sony needs a big first-party win right now, because even though Spider-Man 2 was a huge success, 2024 is looking pretty barren for them, especially since it was recently reported that Wolverine has been pushed back to 2025. So what better way to keep PlayStation in the news than by making 2024 the year of Ghost of Tsushima? Well, what do you guys think? Are you excited for the future of Ghost of Tsushima, or do you think the game would be better off as a standalone game? For me, I am all in on Ghost of Tsushima 2. I cannot wait for it. It sounds freaking awesome, and the movie adaptation is being directed by the guy who directed all of the John Wick movies, so he's the perfect choice for a story like this one. But let me know what your thoughts are down in the comment section. Make sure you're subscribed with your notifications turned on so you don't miss out on any future updates, and I will talk to you guys in the next video.